Peace, HHDG Media. We are on another episode of HHDG Media, the podcast. And on today's episode, we have a man of many hats coming out of Woodside, Queens, Lex.
All right. Peace.
Peace, y'all.
What's going on, man?
Doing good. How you doing today? Aside from that, the Mets that you was talking about.
Doing all right, man. Doing all right. It was a rough day, man. I'm kind of an open book, so I don't sugarcoat much. Rough day, but it's better now, man. Just trying to wind down, trying to de-stress a little bit. Hip hop always helps with that. Discussion always helps with that.
Definitely.
So I appreciate you having me.
Same here, man. Now, before we get into it, we normally ask our guests, to tell us a little bit about yourself. But Before we go into that, tell us about the name.
The name Lex, I mean, it's real basic. You know what I mean? Like, my name is Alex. When I first started rhyming, I was trying to find, so some people call me Lex in general. It was just a nickname since I was younger. When I first started, like, really getting heavy into the rhymes, like, I actually started with DJing. That was my first love, just collecting records. And, I've always kind of had that passion for collection. When I started really just getting a little more serious with the rhymes, I figured, I gotta have a name that I feel comfortable with. I wanted to incorporate Lex in it, so I initially used to call myself Lexicon. And like to me, it was just kind of the whole premise of words with meaning. Kind of being the whole idea behind going by Lexicon. The actual Greek word for Lex is, I believe it's Greek, or I believe it's a Latin word actually for Lex. It means word. So with that, I just figured, Lexicon was a way to move. After a little while, started hearing a group out of Cali that had the same name. I think Nike Head was like one of the joints that they had, and they were getting a little bit of buzz on underground hip hop radio, and I was like, well, they were able to drop something official before me, so I kind of felt like, for a while I was proud of holding on to the name, but I was like, you know what, I'm gonna just go back to the roots of Lex, keep it simple as that. Many folks might know me as Lex NYRE. That is an acronym for my crew, New York Rhyme Exchange. We used to rock shows, man. Early to mid 2000s, pretty frequently, New York Rhyme Exchange would be on the scene. A lot of nights at the Bowery Poetry Club, a lot of nights at Black Bear, and just all over the place, man. We used to rock. Remember rocking shows on nights with Nems and Mayhem on the come up, and like a lot of the same folks in the Gab Gotcha, like a lot of the folks in that circle just kind of came up and made their own lanes, and it was a good time to be present on the hip hop scene in New York.
Dope. Now, when you going by Lexicon, how long were you with Sinister Circle?
Oh well, Sinister Circle was that's a group that's comprised of myself, my brother, who's a producer, Enoirs, also our engineer at the time, my man Robert Aguilar, who was a producer, my man Snake Eyes, who was another MC in the clique that was like my best friend from around the way, and also, I mean, early on, my cousin Nell was down with us too, as part of Sinister Circle. So we started out as 3 MCs, but by the time we officially released something, it was just 2 of us. Lotus started doing this thing with Dice Life, and that was another crew that we were affiliated with at the time. Just neighborhood friends, Queen shit,
Mm-hmm. Dope. Now you mentioned Enoirs. I see you on almost every project. That's your engineer.
Yeah. Well, actually, he's not. He doesn't engineer everything. But he certainly he almost always has a hand in the mixing for my projects. Enoirs also does production. I mean, that's my brother, like my literal brother. Like my blood brother. So he's my older brother, man. We came up. I came up really just kind of jocking all the shit he was into. You know what I'm saying? So like when he brought Low End Theory home, that's when like my mind kind of just like exploded, and I really like fell in love with hip hop through his collection, you know. So Enoirs is certainly the foundation of I mean, of course, along with our parents, but my pops was a musician as well, so plays guitar, plays a lot of instruments, primarily guitar, sax, and keyboard. But you know, there was always just kind of a love for music in the house, and Enoirs was the one that kind of tied in the hip hop elements, and just kind of growing up in Queens in that era, it was natural to you know, just kind of follow suit and really just be fascinated by all the graffiti that was around and the different types of things that just kind of defined being a hip hop head growing up in New York during what we would consider now, what most people would consider now, a golden era.
Right. And being that he what you just explained about Enoirs and listening to the final product of your projects, you got to have a crisp sound, and he definitely is there for you every single time.
Absolutely. I mean, you know, it was many years that we've been doing this, and Enoirs over the years has you know, grown his ear meticulously. You know, he's one of the folks that will mix it 10 times and then mix it again after. I personally try to tell him to simplify it. For me personally, when you have something that you feel comfortable with, shoot it my way. And if there's anything that I really think needs a bit of a twinge, I'm gonna let you know. But you know, this time around, when it comes to the most recent project, I mean, everything was just sounding crisp out the gate when I received it. Was happy with it, man. Big sound. Shout out to Enoirs, man. We actually recorded this most recent project at a studio called HQNY, which is out in Whitestone, Queens. Shout out to my man Realize. It's a spin-off of Heads Up Studio, which is another spot we used to go to in that same building. Okay. Yeah, Noise definitely got this was our first time really recording in his sessions at that spot, which you know, he holds down for Sundays. If anybody needs a good engineer, some studio time, I mean, that is definitely a good look. It gives you bang for your buck. But yeah, this was the first project that we tried recording there on his own equipment, and yeah, I'm happy with it, man. I'm happy with the sound.
Definitely. Now, since you talking about the new project, let's talk about it real quick.
Sure.
Starting off with that title, 1234.
Yes, sir.
I know I've read before that you said it has many meanings, and you know, one of them is pretty obvious with the time. The second was obvious if you actually listen to the project. The running time is the same as well.
Right.
Tell us more about the meaning.
I mean, it really just came about with me at a certain period in my life. I was just kind of noticing frequently, not really trying to be mentally cognizant of it, but I would just notice that anytime it was 12:34 during the day, whether it's in the afternoon or at night, I would find myself just catching that time. Like I won't look at a clock for most of the day. And I'll just look and I'll see it. And I'm like, damn, why do I keep catching these same numbers in sequence? I think that maybe it's a little, you know, part of it is psychological, where, you know, you know that the sequence is there, so you pay attention to it more than other numbers. But I just felt like for a good period of time, I was seeing it consistently, and I felt like it had to mean something. So I started to look into it a little bit, you know, like, well, what does it mean when you keep seeing 1234? Does it mean anything to anybody? And of course, there's always going to be some type of description online. Somebody's going to have an answer for you. It's just the era that we live in. And what I did end up finding was a lot of discussion about angel numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, and essentially what it represents is a sign of progression. The fact that you're seeing numbers within a climbing sequence It kind of means that you're on a path towards progression, specifically for a goal or something that you're looking to achieve. So they all have their own significance within the sequence, but a lot of it has to do with just creation and really, when you see that number, you're supposed to be kind of reassured that you're on a good path. And I kind of took that with me. I held that in my head, and I started thinking, man, it'd be a good concept for a 4-track EP, and I just kind of ran with that. So that was the idea behind it. Just trying to put together something that was quick, to the point. When I got into the actual process of recording it, I knew that I wanted to actually make the full runtime on the EP, 12 minutes and 34 seconds. For anyone that copped the CD, then there's 3 extra joints, so that goes out the window. But the 4 tracks themselves, they run out to 12 minutes and 34 seconds. So just kind of wanted to keep it themed in line with the whole concept of it. I try to make everything that I put together, focused around some type of theme. It's not my first rodeo. I've dropped quite a few projects, and I wanted to make sure that this one had its own presence that was different from the others.
Yeah, and now that you described the meaning with the numbers, the track names even make more sense.
Yeah, I'm not really sure that I intended to really plan it out like that. But as I was going through the process of it, I did see that how everything was kind of aligning, and things just kind of came together well. I was actually in quite the slump in terms of writer's block and all that. Just been super busy, man. Life's been crazy. I think that's the case for everybody across the board over the last year and a half to 2 years. It's just been a lot of change, a lot of death, a lot of a lot of struggle, and with that, just trying to tap into that creative energy. Sometimes it's just not there. I found myself, like, work in general, for me particularly, definitely got harder. I've been fortunate to have the opportunity to stay home most of the time when it comes to that aspect of my life, but that creates challenges in its own way, so with that, just I also moved into a house last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you, appreciate it, man. Through the pandemic, things got really tight on us, man. I was in an apartment in Queens, which I'd been in for years upon years, and just the walls started closing in, man. I was working at home. My wife was working at home at the time. My daughter was doing her schoolwork, and just kind of on top of each other, and not really being able to get out much. This is when, like, the lockdown was for real. Yeah, man. I mean, over time, again, we had some rough experiences in our personal lives, and we ultimately found ourselves in a position where there was an opportunity to begin, really house hunting, and so we found ourselves in a new place, and that'll keep you busy. That'll keep you busy. Moving in general, anybody that's ever moved from anywhere to anywhere knows that's a process. And then on top of that, a first-time homeowner, there were a lot of things that needed to get done too. So, like, music just kind of fell on the back burner for a while, and I just didn't have the energy in me to write. But when I knew that my brother had secured that studio time, I had already had a few beats in the stash that I knew I wanted to work with. And particularly for this project, I had this project in mind before I was really writing it. When my brother just, when Enoirs came through and he let me know that he had the spot and he wanted to run a couple of trial sessions, I was like, perfect. You know what? I'm put all that behind me. I knocked out these 4 tracks quick, got to the studio, laid them down, and the rest is history.
and it's a dope EP y'all need to check out. And being that you're a producer, I always expect a track by you, but I also know that you have you got much respect out there. So there's producers out there that I know they respect your work as well. So let's talk about the four producers you have on here. You got Motif Alumni on the first track.
Mm-hmm.
You got Camouflage Monk, V-Don, and 38 Special.
Yeah, that producer lineup was actually, an opportunity presented itself to work with certain artists that that had tracks available, and it was kind of more on a business transaction level this time around, and I knew that I knew who I wanted to try to look for. Each of these producers are among the top of the line right now as far as who's putting out content regularly, consistently, and just has a big and effective sound. And it was a privilege to be able to find myself in a position to use production by those four brothers. So I knew the type of sound that I wanted for this project was a little bit a little bigger than what I'm accustomed to. A lot of what I do is a little more along the lines of that dusty type of production.
Mm-hmm.
This right here is a little more alive to me. It's just so clean and crystal clear. It's, the way these brothers put their music together, the production sounds alive. It's awake. You know what I mean? And that's definitely the feel that I wanted for this particular theme project. And as usual with me, man, I don't do a whole lot of writing without having some production in mind first. So the beat just kind of tells me which way to go with it.
Dope. Now we definitely gonna stick on this EP because you got some intricate work on the artwork that you did.
Thank you.
I like if you really start paying attention to it, I see the symmetry and with the numbers as well.
Right.
Tell us where your vision came with that.
I always start I start throwing I do all of my cover work. Some of it I will every now and then I will enlist somebody to maybe throw down a so some actual handwork. I'm not the most talented artist with a pen, or at least I haven't tried in a very long time. So every once in a while I will enlist the services of an actual illustrator. But in this case, I was just kind of working with photo manipulation, and honestly, my process is really just kind of throwing everything at the wall. I will go through quite a few different iterations of every cover that I put out, and just keep looking for content that allows me to kind of pull myself in the direction that I want to go. I knew that as far as the font is concerned, I wanted to use basically like that digital clock kind of font. The same thing you see on your alarm clock in the morning when it's 12:34, or in the afternoon. That's somebody's morning, I'm sure. And then if you look at the actual imagery of the clock, that's in a lot of the background imagery on the cover art, that is dedicated to the time 12:34 as well. Make sure that the watch is showing. I knew that was something I wanted. Always got to have some kind of polo on when I'm putting together album artwork. So that was a thing. And then I kind of had the idea of I knew I wanted to kind of play on that cathedral kind of feel that touches a lot of artwork these days. But I wanted to do it in a little bit of a different way, where I could be, sitting on my own throne as the king of my castle. I do have that took some work to get the way it looks right now, but got Queens in the background, got the bridge there and all that. Word. So for anybody interested, I mean, I guess we'll get to the point where we talk about where all of the stuff is available. But yeah, the cover artwork that I'm referring to, I don't know how much of my screen is catching this right now, but there it goes.
Yeah, you got the whole thing,
Yeah. I knew I wanted to just kind of have something that felt, while kind of going in a similar lane to what artists are doing. I wanted to one up it and just to make sure that it felt like me. And I was happy with the final project. I just wanted something also that kind of matched the sound. You know what I mean? It's always important that when you're putting together artwork that you're not looking at one thing and hearing something else and they're not coming together. When you're listening to my project, I want you to be able to look on your phone or wherever it is that you're looking at it, and I want that cover to make sense. And so I mean, I did feel like that was accomplished here. Not much more to say, man. The ideas, they come along as it's a work in progress type of thing. So I kind of pushed my way to the finish line.
Now, one thing I noticed on the cover, you have the clock behind you with the Roman numerals on it.
Yes.
Did that have like an angelic feel to it? Because there's also like a beam kind of shining directly in that area as well.
Yeah. I mean that did, and I'll right. So I've got like the Roman clock behind me, almost kind of presenting itself as a halo. To an extent, I did want to have that cathedral vibe again, and that does tie into the whole angel number concept. So that was certainly a part of my thought process with that. The beam itself was just something that I thought gave the images more personality.
Gotcha.
Something to just kind of awaken. Always, they say the eyes are the windows to the soul. So I just wanted to kind of bring some emphasis there.
Dope. Now, I also want to mention you had cuts by Debonair P, who you worked with in the past. So I definitely want to bring that up because that was a dope project that the two of y'all put together in the past. Yeah,
Deb P, that's the homie, man. Me and him been working together for years. We actually met. Funny story. So at the time when I met Debonair P, he was going by the name Polarity, part of a group out in Australia called Low Budget. He's from Melbourne. So him and his homeboy Gene was the MC. He was the producer and the DJ. And I met him on a hip hop message board for MasterAce.com. It was around the time I want to say it must have been around the time like shortly after Disposable Arts dropped. And everybody was just kind of like refiguring out just how much they like Master Ace. So they had message boards. I had joined back then, and there was some artists that would post some music there. My man DJ Soul Clap was on there too. I don't know if you're familiar with him, his projects with Punchline and EMC really eventually. So I mean, that's kind of how that connect got there through CC. Shout out to CC. CC copped her copy of 1234. That's the homie, man. That's actually Master Ace's cousin. She used to run that site. So me and Debonair P, Polarity at the time, we started chopping it up. We just respected each other's music when we would post links, and we started, working on a project. Like I want to say, it must have started around 2004 or so, and eventually that found its way out in 2013. So I mean, anybody who's really involved in this knows that the process can be as quick as a week in the studio, or it could be as long as this has been a few years in the making.
Right.
Me and him, I just always loved his production, man. It's very soulful. He kind of he had hit me with an actual physical beat CD that he sent through the mail. For that project that we're discussing is called Hennessy in 76. So he sent me a beat CD the first day, and I was like, all right, well, let me see what this is about. I threw it on, and it was like, okay, this is dope. Skip to the next track. Whoa, this is dope too. Everything was kind of catching me off guard because it wasn't typical. It wasn't a typical sound. It wasn't straight boom bap, but it was very soulful. And it had a lot of range. You know, like you could do different things with the production that he was sending my way. And by the time I got through the CD, the first CD was like 45 tracks. And so I grabbed a few of those. I sent them the first 4, and then from there the ball just kind of kept rolling. And we've been working together ever since. He's always just been extremely talented. Yo, shout out to Debonair P, man, because he really came through in the clutch for me on this one. He also just recently moved, and I knew that it was gonna take some time for him to unpack his turntables and get everything set up. And as soon as he did, he came through for me. So that's the homie right there, man. And I expect to continue as long as I'm making music, and as long as he's still got the love for the turntables, then you'll be hearing us together. That's the homie. One thing that the purists will appreciate about Debonair P is that he does not use Serato or so all those cuts that you hear on these tracks, those are straight off of the records.
Dope. Yeah, he killed those cuts.
Yeah, I'll give him an idea. I'll let him know what the theme of the song is. I'll usually try to present at least 1 or 2 potential cuts for him to use, and just let him run with it. And he never disappoints. He'll be on. I've got some unreleased stuff with him too. So it's not the last you've heard from us.
Look forward to that.
Thank you.
Now, one of the things I like about your work is you create a great work of art of explaining and being able to imagine life, the positive things of life, the bad things of life, what our mental health is and things like that. And, not too many artists are able to be diverse with making relatable music. And you do a really good job at that.
Thank you. That's for me personally. I listen to so much music. There's a lot of artists that really only listen to themselves or their crew, or I listen to a ton of music. I try not to pigeonhole anything. I try not to be too deep into one clique or anything like that. I try to listen to a lot and absorb as much as I can. I don't want to sound like anybody. I don't want anybody to really rub off on me. I'd rather gain my inspiration from everywhere and then do my own thing. As far as me personally, the way that the music that speaks the most to me, it always tends to be music that deals with real life situations. I've found over the years that there have been, even when I was young, there were songs that just kind of help you get through a hard time. There's songs. There's songs that even if they don't really have any specific meaning lyrically, they may just bring you back to a very specific time, or what you were doing when you heard it, or they just have a special place with you, and a lasting value. And when I create music, I try to create from that place, where I'm tapping into a part of myself that I feel is worth sharing. And a lot of the time that just comes out of, really good or bad times. Sometimes both.
Dope. Now you were telling us briefly that your father plays the guitar.
Yeah.
That's one musical influence right there. Tell us about other family members.
So it's funny because I say some of this stuff on record every once in a while. But as far as musical influence, obviously my dad, but my uncle used to also play the bass with him. So like when I was younger, they had a basement in Kew Gardens we used to go to, and they would just be jamming and recording on the reel-to-reel. So that was always dope. I had my dad was a guitar player. My uncle played bass, his brother, and then my other uncle a couple of my other uncles. My mother's brother would he would come through with the cowbell or the cheese, or just kind of like playing like a fake Guido with the cheese grate and a fork, just kind of you know what I mean. So that was always like to me, like as a kid, seeing that and just hearing everything come together it was like magical, you know what I mean. And they just be in there doing their own thing, and we were over here running around wild. And you know it was always background, but it was always there. And it added something to the presence, to the moment, you know, like those moments are special because, you know, there was just so much camaraderie in it, and everything coming together to form one piece in unison. That's just something that's always appealed to me. So I mean, and I had another uncle that played drums. I mean, aside from that, musical influences really just come from listening to all kinds of stuff. Even when my pops wasn't playing, like if he's just driving the car and we was in the back seat, I'd be listening to he used to mess with CD 101.9 and like so there's always jazz on. There was a lot of Anita Baker. When it came to his records, he was into the Hendrix and the Santana and all of that. So like that was his influence in terms of learning how to learn really shredding, you know, playing guitar. But yeah, I mean, it's just always been there. I mean, he's in those musical influences. I tend to kind of gravitate a little more towards what my dad listens to. My mother also, you know, she liked a lot of good stuff too. I mean, there was salsa in the house as well. But you know, like just things that you don't get in every household. Like my dad would listen to Spyro Gyra and like Weather Report and just like, you know, just all kinds of stuff that like sample heads now go nuts over. Yeah, that was just kind of part of my upbringing, and I think that it definitely it particularly with the jazz, it stuck with me, man. Like I really, as a kid, I didn't think twice about it. You know, it was boring. As I, you know, really started to grow an appreciation for music, you know, I just found it very, very calming. You know, and you know, when I don't know how to get my thoughts under control, I put my headphones on. I think a lot of us could relate to that. So. Yeah, I'd say those are some of the influences. Hip hop wise, I mean, I could sit here and name names forever. I know you can too. But the big one, the big one is the Tribe Called Quest for me. That's the big one. That was like that Queens representation, that little bit of like just the lifestyle, like you know, the fly polo and just like not being like completely one dimensional. You know, like. Tribe would talk about whatever. They talk about date rape. They talk about anything. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't one thing, and it wasn't really just like it wasn't so much of a pissing contest with Tribe. Although I will say that you can still hear the competitiveness in like a fight verse where he's really just, you know, trying to do things lyrically that'll make you say wow. So there was always that element of it that I appreciated, but what I love most about Tribe was that they weren't boxed in the way that so many other artists are. And I know, you know, certain people probably disagree with that. But me personally, like I didn't know what to expect one record to the next, and I was always impressed. So that's what I loved about Tribe.
Yeah, I was big on Public Enemy.
Nice.
And the funny thing is, so was my father.
That's a.
But one of the things that you mentioned, Spyro Gyra, that's crazy. You mentioned that because my mother is a big jazz fan, and growing up on Staten Island, my first concert was in Snug Harbor, and Spyro Gyra was performing.
That must have been pretty intense.
Yeah, man.
There's nothing like live jazz, man. I mean,
yeah.
You think it's one thing to go to a hip hop show and be, well, I mean, depending on who you're seeing, they can compete with any genre. I mean, you see KRS live, it's like seeing, you know, it's like one person just transforming into 12 and just creating something insane. But yeah, the big band type of deal and seeing how everything just comes together, like somebody hits the wind chimes, you're like, wow, this is amazing. It's dope.
Yep.
It's dope. All the South Street Seaport jazz festivals and stuff that used to go on back in the days.
Yeah. Yep. I used to hear all that coming off the ferry when I was going into Manhattan too.
Nice.
You get a nice view of seeing everything just before you get into the port.
You know, that's one thing that I've never done as a New Yorker, man. I've never taken the ferry. And I feel like, and I've always thought like yeah, that'd be cool to do one day. Similar to like when you look at the what do they call it, the tram that goes into Roosevelt Island.
Yeah.
Just something that I've never done, but I've always felt like, man, that'd be fun to do one day. The ferry, I'm sure, you know, some days is better than others.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, you know, you talking about, you know, your family history, it's very important because, you know, having that family cohesion just opens up to so much music. And, you know, it's always great to hear artists speak of, you know, how they come up and just seeing the music in their own home like that.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, we all have our own version of that story. Some people's version is, you know, we weren't allowed to play music in my house, or not the kind of music that I like.
Right.
And it spawns a rebellion and this whole kind of like, you know, I listen to this in my headphones, and, you know, I listen to this when I leave the house. And sometimes that makes the appreciation strong in a different way. So, you know, everybody's got their own story. Music means different things to different people. Obviously, to those of us who really kind of dedicate, you know, some time in our life, in these busy lives that we have these days, if you're able to really, like, you know, just carve out a space to make sure that you're contributing something, you've got to have a love for it, and you know, that's where I appreciate brothers like you know, who make the time to really, you know what I'm saying, create a platform for folks who might be interested in the same types of things that you are. And so, you know, I believe I've told you this before, but I absolutely appreciate you, Ian.
Thank you, man. Humble when I hear stuff like this.
Yeah. I mean, I feel the same.
Because it all comes from love, and I mean, you show the same love as a fan, even though you're an artist. You still show that same love as a fan, and buying T-shirts, CDs, and, you know, showing that support.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do think that it's important to not lose sight of the fact that you know, that this is, like, when it comes to hip hop specifically, it's a community-based culture. And you know, to me, there's a friend of mine who you probably know as well, my man Laser Chun's Bobito Ross. You know, he's always saying, I don't want to get his slogan wrong. I just shouted him out. I can't get his slogan wrong. But support is vital to our existence. That's one thing that he always says, and I wholeheartedly agree with that. You know, doesn't mean that everybody has to be out there grabbing everything, but, you know, where you find inspiration, where you find you know, camaraderie, where you find just some level of appreciation. I do think that it's important that you contribute towards making sure that those things keep going. You know what I mean? It's so easy in this game to feel like, you know, what am I doing this for? And I think that, you know, so some days the answer is just going to be, I'm doing this for me. I'm doing this for me.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to me, I kind of like to share that. You know what I mean? Like I'm not to say that I buy music because I want the person that I'm buying it from to feel good about it. You know what I mean? Like, particularly when before the pandemic and when I was out and about, rubbing shoulders a little bit more, there was a lot of stuff that I would purchase really just because of the moment. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. I'm here. This brother's showing love, or this brother just did his thing, or this sister is very talented at that. I want to support. That's what I'm here for. It's a little bit different online, but again, like I said, I'm always listening to stuff. So there's always something that's really like just kind of catching me and catching my appreciation. And I feel like to some extent, I've always felt like it's like it's good karma, you know. You really want to be about this. You should contribute in every way possible. You know that you're capable of, and some people, you know, they don't have you know, the excess. Yeah, shit, man. I'll never be mad at someone that wants to stream my music and not buy it. For all I know, you know, like that money that they spend on my CD could be taking the last sandwich out of their mouth for the week. I don't need it that bad. You know what I mean? I want it. I'm not gonna front. You know, like I want that support. But if you can't do it, you can't do it. You can show love in many ways. And I feel like, you know, just in my own character, as much as I poured into this thing, I do get a lot of that love back in return. It gets reciprocated. I find myself doing interviews, you know, like whatever the case may be. You know, we're here and we're involved, and you know, if the opportunity presents itself for us to collaborate in a way that contributes to the creation of something pure, I'm all for it.
Definitely. And this is what's important for us. You know, it's not just about buying music; it's about letting it be known what's out there.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is always controversial statements made, like hip hop is dead was a big deal when that album dropped, and everybody was talking about the phrase in itself, but it was so vital because it made you think about the question, like is that really the case? A lot of folks, you know, felt like I know what he means. I know I felt that way when I heard hip hop is dead. I was like, okay, I think I get this, or at least I get it in my own way. We should all be putting something forward that, you know, that inspires one another to, you know, to just to open their minds and open their eyes a little bit, and as well as your ears, and you know, if the music's really good, your heart, and really just kind of embrace the fact that this thing, it's not going nowhere. As long as we're alive, it's alive. I think it was Mos Def that had said that on the intro to his album. Hip hop is here. Hip hop is good. If I'm doing good, hip hop doing good. I mean, that's a very real statement, though. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, I that resonates with me, because it's like, you know, this thing is. Let's not lose sight of the fact that this is spawned out of you know, struggle and a need to really just kind of escape hardships, and that breeds some of the most beautiful creation.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I mean, that's, you know, I'm here for it. I'm here for it. I want to put my best foot forward. I'm also from the era where you don't step up to the mic if you ain't got nothing to say. Don't let that shit be unimpressive. You know, so I mean, there's also that competitive edge.
Yeah, and I'm gonna quote you: "I make every word count."
Hey, indeed, man, I do my best. Do my best.
Definitely. Now, what we haven't touched on yet is your production skills. And
okay,
$1 Holla is one of my favorites.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you. It's always nice to see somebody with the physical too. $1 Holla. I think around the time. So as far as my production is concerned, I still even kind of consider myself more of a beat maker than a producer. Although I put beats together in a fashion where I do want a story to be told within the music. And in the instrumental projects, you kind of get a little more of a feel for that. but also in my self-produced stuff, I just try to sequence it and let it flow in a way where it's not too mundane. And $1 Holla. I had a certain. There were a few tracks that I had in the stash that I really felt had a vibe that was simultaneously kind of silly, but also like it slapped. Like it was also hard. And that's kind of what $1 Holla like kind of spawned from. Just a few tracks that I knew would work well together, sequenced around each other, to try to like just kind of have a fun little funky story. And like I want to say that I really got into production more so around 2000, maybe 2017. So it hasn't been very, very long in terms of production. I've been rhyming much longer than I've been putting together beats. But again, like similar to what I do with my rhymes, I want to make sure that what I'm putting out there isn't the same thing that everybody else is putting out. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to do that because like particularly on that project, I think everything is loop based. But I'm finding different portions of the same records and coming back and sequencing them in a way where it still makes a song out of itself. So yeah, man, I appreciate you bringing that project up. That's not something I was expecting to talk about today. I'm glad somebody enjoys it.
So what's one of your favorite producer projects, your instrumental projects that you put out?
So my favorite, I actually do think that Mouth Shut and Ears Open, the first couple of projects that I put out, they were a continuation of one another, Mouth Shut and Ear Open. And I had put those out collectively on the CD together. I think that I was just in a good zone when I was creating for those particular projects. I know, man, there's so much production that I've made that's never seen the light of day. Some things I sit on and in case I find the inspiration to write. Other things I have let some MCs hear and even given away a couple of tracks that never came back. So I should just do whatever I want with those, honestly. But but maybe one day they'll come back. I know that as an MC, being on the other end of that, sometimes like, oh man, I hate the feeling of sitting on anyone's production. I don't want anyone's work to stop with me. But there are like those occasions where you just kind of like go through the archives and you find something that hey, I might have missed out on this one before, but right now I'm not going to miss. And you really get the job done. I think that a lot of the production that like when I worked on the project with Kespa, an honorable exchange, me and him both kind of had some things in the stash that were like that. Some things that he was sitting on for a while, some things that I was sitting on for a while. Oh, there you go, beautiful. When we put that project, like I found it easy to write some of the beats that he had slept on forever, and he did vice versa. And once we got each other's verses, oh man, I feel like I got to make another project with Kespa. I'm just put that out there now, because like when me and him was working on that project, we really just kind of pulling the best out of each other very easily. That was one of the easiest projects I've ever written, and I'm very happy with the final product. And I got to shout out Ches Rocco, who was really like the third wheel on that project. Ches was the engineer. And he recorded all the joints. He mixed everything down for that project, and but also just kind of keeping the energy right in the studio. Such an important thing, man. Such an underrated part of engineering. You know what I mean? Like somebody who can really make sure that you're in the right space, and bringing forth the right vibe.
That's dope. Now I got a question for that project.
Okay.
The exchange that's the two you have in the subway, was that a recreation?
No, that was actually, I mean, we did want to figure out a way to tie the album together. That's not how we met. We actually met through my man, Apocalypse, the Archangel, had a joint. And this is, I'll go back to Heads Up Studios, which is also in Whitestone. My man Realize was the engineer there. And I had linked up one day with, I don't know if you're familiar, you're familiar with everybody. You know, C's, RA23. Producing a project with Starvin B and all the Top Shelf Music stuff. Shout out to Top Shelf Music. But they had a joint that they had me getting on one day in the studio, and they had another joint with Kesper that he was getting on in the studio, and then I think we both ended up getting on one joint together, and that's where we met. And then just over time, we started seeing each other a couple more times. Kesper hit me up to work on a track that was in the original Ear Candy, which was just a different part of LIC. And me and Kesper did 2 joints that day, Spit an Opera, and did we do TDK Technology that night? I don't know. I think we did 2 tracks that day, but they just both came out amazing to me. Like I was like, holy shit, me and him got something, I work with a lot of MCs. I work with a lot of artists, and that's not to say that that what I do with Kesper is better than what I do with anyone else, but there was just just the right kind of combination. It was something that clicked in terms of our vibe when we worked together, and when we had the idea to start working on a project together, man, that shit rolls seamlessly. So definitely shout out to my man Kesper.
Definitely shout out to him. Yeah, when there's times when artists who haven't known each other for so long, when they work together, it just seems like when you listen to it, it's like, wow, how long have these dudes known each other? Right.
It's very natural, and I feel like that's how it came about. Like every time we were collaborating, it was just working its way out, very nicely. I just felt like he was drawing the best out of me, and. Yeah, I don't know why. Maybe he's competitive, so maybe that's what it is. But it definitely worked.
Now, before we talk about this next project, what soundtrack, whether it be a TV show or a film, it just catches your ear and you listen to it more than once?
A TV show or a film. I mean, there were always like certain things, like the MASH theme was always kind of like just, it was catchy. I mean, when you heard it, it was like, you kind of hated it because it's like, I don't want to watch this shit. I forget what it used to come on after. There was something that was like much younger that would come on before it.
This is why my memory from this, and this is why I hated when MASH came on. The cartoons were over during the week.
Yeah, that must have been it. But when you go back and listen to it, it's like, yo, MASH is kind of hitting, theme songs, man. Even Matlock. It's like there's something there though underneath. It was just the era, man, between the 70s and the 80s, like the transitional years between those 2 eras. They were funky.
Right out there. Yeah,
they were funky. It's kind of putting me on the spot, man. I'm sure I'm gonna think of something I really love as soon as I get off the call. but I mean, those are a couple that I can think of. There's something a little bit like there's a portion that's a little bit almost like Alchemist, like during the Matlock theme, and it's funny. Like I know that because my wife, she grew up with her grandfather, and then spend time with her grandmother often, and like so she's kind of an old soul, so she always like them old people shows. And one year she had put it out there that she wanted to get the box set, and my sister-in-law got it for us, and we was just watching that shit all the time. So the theme song kind of got embedded in my head.
That's dope. Yeah, one of my grandmothers, she was a big fan of like a lot of like crime type of shows and films. She used to watch like the Clint Eastwood, the Charles Bronson movies, and stuff like that. She used to get a kick out of those, man. Yeah,
no, the chase scenes.
Yeah,
you're gonna find some some wicked drums and some real like bouncy bass lines on those themes. The chase themes were where it's at.
Yeah.
You know, like it's just the pace, you know, the like pace, that adrenaline rush.
You know, it's about to go down when it.
Exactly. That was the whole idea behind it.
Yeah. Now the reason I asked that question was because of the project
Flozar. Yeah. That's funny. It's crazy. I didn't even think of it. But yeah. So I'll just dive right into this a little bit. Flozar came about while I was watching the television show Ozark, first season in particular. I kept on hearing stuff in the soundtrack. It was like, oh, you can flip that. You know, that's got some potential right there. So, you know, after the first season was over, I went ahead and I gave that a shot. You know, I was like, let me see if I could find these tracks. You know, do a little bit of what I was hearing during the show. It's very minimalist. Again, this is all loop based on this particular on that particular project. But again, a lot of those things that when I was hearing them, they were catching me off guard because they didn't need much. You know, I just wanted to rap on them. And so I figured when it came to that particular project, though, that it was such a great show and so intense and such kind of like an oddball story. Like we're accustomed to different types of mob shows and all that, but you don't get a whole lot of that like in the sticks. And that's what this show was. It was a little bit different.
Yeah.
And it was so intense. So, you know, that's why, like, when I made that record, even just going back through the soundtrack, I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to have to be different characters if I'm telling a story on this project. So some of it was based, like, directly off of themes from the show. Other things were based on characters that they never touched upon. You know, like a truck driver that's moving weight across the line. You know, I had a whole song from that perspective. So yeah, I mean, that was just something, and then I knew that it would also just be a cool opportunity for me to try to work on a cover. Like I always liked that old circle with the 4 different elements that related to the episode that they would show. Yeah. So I wanted to do something that was a little more hip hop based like that for the cover, and yeah, that was fun to work on artistically, and I think that was the second full-length self-produced project that I put out. That I was like, I think a 6-track EP. All samples from the soundtrack from the first season.
Yeah, that was dope. I like how you put that together.
Thank you. A lot of people do. It's funny because I feel like that particular project only reached so many people, but the people that it did reach, like they really like it. You know, like I get a lot of compliments on that Flozar project. I guess it's original. I mean, it's based on something else, but it's original because you don't get too many folks putting together concepts based off of television shows, I suppose.
Yeah, it's your own uniqueness. Usually, if like someone does something from a TV show, it's like just a track, and it's usually a producer that might flip something.
Right, and it's always Scarface. Well, Goodfellas.
I heard actually, what's his name? Men Plus I think he's from Brooklyn. He flipped Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh, nice. Yeah,
it came out nice too. I gotta send that to you.
Yeah. I definitely I'll keep my eyes open and ears out for that one.
Now let's talk about how you linked up with Starvin B, Spit Gems, and FU.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, it's funny because this is also kind of through my man C's, particularly with Starvin. He had produced the track for Food Chain, which was probably Starvin's, I want to say third or fourth project. Starvin's always been a workhorse. And that was around the time when I was just kind of finding out about Starving B. I found out about them through the opposition, because I was listening to a lot of the Outdoorsman stuff. Again, that's all Queen stuff, like Mayhem and Action. They came up with J Love, so I've been hearing Mayhem for a long time on J Love mixtapes, and then. Shaz was also down with the Outdoorsmen back then, and then when Shaz came out with his own stuff with Spit Gems. At first, I kind of listened to it and it was like, all right, yeah, this is hard. This is some hardcore shit. But then when I went back and really listened, Spit in particular was just kind of like otherworldly. Like I know a lot of people. I know a lot of very talented people. Spit to me is top tier. I consider that dude a genius. Just based on not only my conversations with him, but just in general, listening to the way that he puts words together, to me is highly impressive. I know how hard it is to work your breath control in the way that he does. So I respect the hell out of it. And when I started listening to more of the opposition, and I started hearing the tracks that Starvin was on, and GS Advance and FU, and then Mitchell Ames, just endless amounts of MCs. I was like, holy shit, wow, everybody's good. Stark is finally like really kind of getting some of the praise he deserves.
Yeah, definitely.
Just like that whole, A1's a beast. Like all of them, like I tell them this when I see them. I mean, I in terms of meeting them, for the most part, it was just kind of like really on some fan shit. Like I like their music enough to purchase it. So when I would I went to Goblins a couple of times, like for album release shows and things of that nature, and just kind of got to hang around them and get to know them. And AG the Coroner, and just so many talented cats was on that scene at that time. Even Goblin, obviously, who's the head of that spot there. But Goblin Studios was just kind of like, you had the best of the best coming through there, and this was at a bit of a pivotal time. I remember my man Sunez was writing kind of like doing kind of like a write up on a bit of a renaissance that was happening in Queens at that time. And it was because of Goblin Studios and all the artists that was coming through there. So you had Large Professor in there on a regular basis. You had Sean Price coming through and record on a regular basis. You had Tragedy Gaddafi, the Beatnuts, just all of these legends. But J. Rue the Damager and all of these legends. But then you also have that wave that's right underneath them. My man Trey 8 too is Trey's on the new EP. If you got the CD, but. Like all of these brothers are just so talented, and so much talent coming into one place, really just kind of culminating there. A lot of that had to do with Spent Dinero too, who was the engineer at that spot. Great ear. Not only is he a great engineer, but he's also a dope MC. One Take was producing a lot of stuff. It was just so much talent in one place. And when I had the opportunity to kind of like link up with folks at different shows and things like that, I showed support, and they, they appreciated that. And, as I continued, creating my own material, they caught on to it as well. So, we've had the opportunity to collaborate and just make a lot of noise. And I'd be remiss if I didn't shout out FU on his new release, along with my man Cole James Cash. I'm saying that I'm fortunate to be involved with that project as well. Sunset on Sunset. Right. So that kind of starts off. If you listen to the EP, it starts off in New York and then it takes you to Cali, which covers, obviously FU is from Corona, Queens, and then my man Cole James Cash from Oakland. So you get a little bit of a feel of both worlds there. You got really good features on that project as well. You got Mr. Motherfucking Esquire, you got Blue, you got Mitchie Slick. I mean, just like Sky Zoo, just like potent MCs on both sides. So yeah, I'm very happy to be involved with that. And yeah, Cole is definitely a brother who showed a lot of love over the years. We connected actually through I don't know if you remember uncut.com.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
The
so
cat.
Rob,
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, exactly. And that man, that site used to have some of the best articles, man. I gotta holler at Rob at some point to see if he's got the bug again to to post a couple of things, because that site was fucking awesome. Um, but we met through the comment sections on there, and then it's funny because yeah, when Cole had reached out to me when he was working on his BBW project. I don't know if you ever got a chance to hear that. But it was basically like he was just naming beats after porn stars, after heavy set porn stars, and thematically, like a lot of the tracks were kind of going in that direction. So he had hollered at me, and I created a track, and then he was like, "Bro, do you know anybody else that might want to get down on this?" And that's I ended up connecting him with F, and kind of there was a bit of a chain reaction there. So me, him, and F have a lot of stuff together over the years that we put out, and yeah, so that's a strong unit. I'm happy to see the both of them put something down together.
So, yeah, I'm glad to hear that. Kesper saying peace.
Oh, peace, family. What up, kid? I mean, we was just talking about you, man. Your ears must have been ringing. Yeah, that's the homie, man. Jackson Heights in the house.
Since we're talking about Queens, let's get into your sports. Who was your first team in NYC that really got you into the sports?
The Mets in '86.
Okay.
Mets in '86. Like I always liked sports. Enough. I was a baby. I was a kid. Like in '86, I was 5 going on 6. So, but that's where I remember the excitement. You know what I mean? Like that's why I remember sports being a big deal. 1986 Mets. All of these freaking maniac cokeheads in the dugout, just really like being intense and playing their asses off, and just an excitement in Queens, man. I don't know if I made it to, if I was at a game in '86. The funniest thing that I could think of, because like if you know me, I'm a Mets fanatic. The craziest thing that I can think of, that I can remember in terms of my earliest sports memory, was going to Shea Stadium with a Yankees hat that I had gotten from one of my uncles, right? And I was a kid. This was before '86, I think. So like nobody was giving me shit. I'm a little kid, but I remember feeling a way about nobody else being a fan of the Yankees. The thing that was on my hat that I didn't know shit about. I just knew I had a hat. And I remember feeling like just kind of overwhelmed by like almost like a little hater. Like how come nobody else likes the Yankees here type of shit. So that's one of my first sports memories, just kind of feeling alienated at Shea Stadium. But as soon as I started paying attention to baseball, I was a huge Mets fan. And that was that was the backyard. That's the 7 line right there.
Yeah.
Take the train to the game.
Guess what said our Mets are hurting, fam.
Oh my God! Did they lose again tonight? Shit, man. I bet they did. It's been hard the last couple weeks. Yeah, let's move along from sports. The Jets look pretty good right now. The Jets. Zach Wilson looked pretty good in his first game. I thought he looked efficient. I thought that he looked poised. He was making good decisions. He was fast. Means nothing in the preseason, but you can tell when somebody's either got it or they don't. It looks like he's got it. I'm hoping that's the case. I'm hoping he can stay healthy. I'm hoping that when the waiver wire kicks down, we get some type of veteran, because if he goes down, we're toast. But yeah, I'm looking for. Yeah, I'm starting to move over into football season.
Yeah, I'm still playing catch up. Reading on all the news going on.
I hear you.
Now, did you get a chance to catch Once Upon a Time in Queens, the
Uh,
documentary?
I did not. I can't say that I'm very familiar. What is Once Upon a Time in Queens?
It's a ESPN 30 for 30 documentary on the Mets.
Okay. Yeah. No, you know what? I haven't seen that particular 30 for 30, but that is something I should watch.
Yeah, that one
And
was that was a good one.
that's on the 86 Mets?
Uh, yeah,
I would presume so. That's like the
yep.
most storied team of the franchise history. Um, just because of how it was a roller coaster, a lot of bad publicity for those guys. But they were elite.
Yep.
I love watching the games now because you got Gary and Keith. Keith and Ron really, who were players from that '86 team. Keith Hernandez, first baseman, Colombian guy, just awesome defensive first baseman, probably the best ever. I think he's got the most Golden Gloves at first base, and a great hitter as well. And then you have Ron Darling, who is just a quality starting pitcher. And both of those guys, when you watch them call the games, they I like that they're not very biased. The Mets are fucking up, they're going to talk about it. Same thing as if the other team's doing well. They're not super biased. Like they're very honest with what they see on the field and the approach that from a hitting perspective as well as a pitching perspective, it makes you enjoy the game, even though the games have been less and less enjoyable, as Kesper alluded to.
I think it's even better when former players are actually commentating on the teams that they either spent their whole career on or the majority of their career.
Yeah, I agree. It gives something to the fans too.
Yeah.
If you got to experience them in one way, then you appreciate what it is that they have to say and really just kind of how much knowledge goes into the actual game itself. Like a lot of folks kind of tend to write off athletes as if they're dumb jocks. There is to be a professional athlete. You've got to be an exceptional human being. That is not easy. That is not easy by any stretch of the imagination.
Just going through all the plays that they need to remember in their routes and routines and all the mechanics. I mean,
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's just what you see on TV that's minuscule to what they do before the games.
Right. Absolutely. The preparation is it's intense.
Yeah. And then to just be on point when the games start. I mean, there is no redo. It's right here in your face.
Yep, and you're going against people who are preparing just as hard as you are. So it's a real challenge.
Yep.
No?
Definitely.
Right. Those of us who appreciate it can appreciate it.
Yeah. I got one more before we get out of here.
Cool.
Let Go.
Indeed.
Buck.
Yeah, my man Buck. Yes, sir. Buck 310. That is my man from Venice, California. He's been in New York for a good stretch now. He's been in New York for a while. I gotta holler at Buck, man. I think he's still in Brooklyn. Yeah, me and Buck, we've been working together for a while. The first track that Buck produced for me was featured on an album that I dropped in 2009 called Maintaining. And he had a track called Don't Turn Around on Maintaining. And that for me was definitely one of my favorite tracks on Maintaining. I just always felt like I had good chemistry with Buck when it came to tracks that we worked on together. He had 3 tracks on the Hash Project, How About Some Hardcore. He produced the joint.
One of my favorites.
Thank you. He produced the joint with me and Mayhem on that. He also produced the joint with me and Timeless Truth on that. And he produced the 3rd joint called A Nighttime Grime. And just all 3 of those tracks had a particular kind of like, going back to what I said earlier about 1234 kind of having like this clean and shiny feel. Buck's production tends to have a bit more of like a little bit of a dusty feel, and Very soulful, very soulful. Let Go, it's funny because Let Go was really intended to be a preliminary project for me and Buck, because there's another one on the way. There's one, the next project that me and Buck have coming out is called Real Estate. And with Real Estate, man, I hate myself for sitting on some of these tracks for as long as I have, because I really think it's some of my best music. And Buck, a lot of that is attributed to Buck naturally. He produced the whole thing. I did get a couple of new joints from him that I feel like they're too good for me to not create something new for this Real Estate project. So I got a little bit of work ahead of me. But yeah, man, that brother's it's crazy. I don't think that he'd be upset if I mentioned this. I hope not. I'll apologize to him in person if I have to. But Buck is he's quite the talented individual, man. He's actually an eye doctor in real life. Nice. That's what brought him from California to New York, and just a very very talented and intelligent dude. I really look forward to doing what I need to do to get this project out. I don't know if it's going to happen this year. This year has taken me all over the place. But yeah, I will say that if you've historically been a listener of mine or a fan of what it is that I do, that I promise you when this next Buck project comes out, it's going to be worthwhile. It's going to be worthwhile. I have at least 3 of my favorite songs I've ever recorded on that project. And I've recorded a lot. Yeah. So I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to putting that one out. I can't front. It's gonna take, just gonna take a little bit of TLC preparation. To some of that elite athletic preparation that we was just discussing.
Yeah, definitely, man. Lex NYRE on HHDG Media, man. We appreciate you taking the time out to speak with us.
It was an absolute pleasure. I appreciate you making the time, making a path for me to present myself and just get some of these thoughts in my head out in the open.
Definitely appreciate you. Let the people know where they can go and support your projects as well as your latest 1234 and where you can be reached at.
All right, so 1234, got it on my end too, is available now on my Bandcamp page. It is lexnyre.bandcamp.com. You will find lots of music there. Some of it was even released free over the years. So if you're just learning about what it is that I do, or you're interested in checking out some music because you thought my interview was cool here, check out lexnyre.bandcamp.com. There is a lot of content there. The CDs are for sale. They do have 3 additional tracks. The new album is called 1234, 1234, by Lex NYRE. 4-track EP for the digital, 3 bonus tracks on the physical. That's the only place the physical is available is on Bandcamp. But you can find all of my music, or most of my music on Spotify as well as Apple Music, everywhere, all DSPs, anywhere music is streamed. Just type in Lex NYRE and the numbers 1234, and you will be able to find a new project. So try before you buy if you're interested. Give it a spin, see if it's up your alley. To connect with me on social, you can just pretty much search for Lex NYRE everywhere. Facebook /Lex NYRE, Instagram Lex NYRE. On Twitter, I'm actually Lex718. I don't even know what the other. I don't do TikTok and none of that shit. What else is out there where people find stuff? SoundCloud. My SoundCloud I haven't touched in a while, but it's still there. Lex NYRE. So yeah, anything You can find my shit pretty easily. New York Rhyme Exchange is the acronym NYRE, Lex NYRE, or Lex NYRE, or whatever you want to call me. Just Lex. It's your boy from Queens.
There you go. On behalf of our entire HHDG media crew that makes this all happen every time we have interviews, Skelly Top, Rock Faded KB, Demir, T. Smith, and myself, Wiki, we're going to say peace.
Much love.